Hey YouTube, it's Zyloc with Media Hindsight, and I am here to take you on a trip through the past, one game at a time, and today we are looking at Trojan for the NES. This came out in 1986 for the arcades, and it was ported in 1987 to the NES. And Trojan is a Capcom classic that I haven't heard a lot about until recently, and I found it at a used music video game store. And it's a really cool side-scrolling action game, if you will. Not a whole lot of platforming involved, but it's definitely got a lot more strategy involved because you've got a sword and a shield, so you got to kind of balance defense and offense. It's pretty cool. Let's take a look. The first thing that you'll notice that sets Trojan apart from its typical action game brethren is that your shield is almost as, if not more important than your sword. Your sword can be swung in only one way, and that's right in front of your character, but your shield can be used to deflect attacks from all angles. The only exception to this is right below you while you're jumping or falling. This almost gives you the ability to be an impenetrable Spartan warrior that can determine when it's best to slice your enemy. This is where patience can be key and really does allow for a certain level of skill and mastery that other games don't afford when it comes to defensive options. There are exceptions to this rule though, as many bosses have unblockable attacks that you need to be wary about and dodge. This does bring up my main complaint with Trojan, and that is with the jumping mechanic. You need good reflexes to dodge certain attacks, but the controls make it very difficult to determine whether the jump will go straight up or at an arc. It almost felt random and became frustrating so quickly. I tried several different controllers and I still fell victim to this issue. And the real issue probably boils down to the fact that the jump button is mapped to the up button on the D-pad instead of the A button like most games are. This is probably due to the limitation of the hardware, as there's only 2 buttons on the NES. It's unfortunate, but the game is definitely still playable. Throughout your adventure, you'll traverse 6 different areas split into 2 levels apiece, and while each level looks quite different from the last, none of the levels really change up the gameplay that much. And to be honest, this is really because there is very little, if any, platforming in this game. And to me, that's a total win here, because I wouldn't want to wrestle with the dodgy jump controls any more than I have to. Each level has a boss encounter, and they're all pretty interesting and challenging. Most of the bosses have the ability to block your attacks in certain ways, and that adds a certain strategic feel to them. And they also have their own attack patterns, as most bosses do. While these encounters are certainly interesting the first time, you'll quickly find that these handful of bosses are used several times throughout the game and get stale super quickly. Your basic run-of-the-mill enemies are certainly varied enough though, and you'll often have melee grunts coming at you from both sides, while airborne or perched enemies rain down fire, and knife-throwing ninjas make it difficult to determine who your next target should be. It may sound overwhelming, but Trojan's enemy placement is actually very well implemented and rewards a knowledgeable and skilled player with assured victory. Assuming you're skilled enough, Trojan may actually be beaten twice in a row to achieve the best ending. Capcom clearly enjoyed this concept after driving players mad with ghosts and goblins, and no doubt brought a lot of extra quarters to their arcade machines. Speaking of the arcade, there are a few really interesting additions that Capcom made to the NES version. The first and least meaningful one is a one-on-one versus mode where you can duel a friend playing as the main characters. While this isn't very interesting or fun, it is still worth noting that this preceded Street Fighter and was Capcom's first attempt at a fighting game experience. And the more game-changing addition is that of secret rooms and power-ups. These secret rooms contain mini-bosses, and the power-ups can make the player jump much higher, as well as double and even triple your attack power. These attack power upgrades only last until you die, but a very skilled player can get through the game on a single life and potentially eliminate bosses in only a few hits. Trojan is a tough-as-nails game, and to be honest, it's pretty unforgiving for new players, but as time passes, you'll learn how to approach each situation and boss encounter. And you only start with 3 lives, and not having the option to continue really drives this home. But as Trojan is a relatively short game, it's meant to be replayed again and again. But really, what NES game wasn't though? When talking and writing about Trojan, one thing that generally I forget to mention are the visuals and sound. While the game is definitely not bad looking by any means, the problem is the level designs and character models just aren't that detailed or interesting. The sound effects of your sword and shield, though, are fantastic and give you great audible feedback when successfully blocking a projectile or landing that final blow on a boss. The music, though, is pretty forgettable overall, unfortunately, and the only level that I really enjoyed was Stage 2's music, which is certainly worthy of listening to once in a while. There you guys have it. That's Trojan for the NES. A really good game. I definitely highly suggest you guys go check it out. I'm going to give the game an 80 out of 100. The graphics and music may not be the greatest thing in the world, but they definitely do the game justice, and the game is just a lot of fun, and I like the kind of unique aspect of having to switch between offensive and defensive mindset while playing the game and picking your battles strategically. So that's really cool and something you don't very often find on older games like this. So definitely go check it out, guys, if you can. Let me know in the comments below if you've played Trojan, you've had a really, really good time with it. Let me know. And as always, Zyloc Media Hindsight, signing out.